authorization to go after 500 treatment beds, not 3,000, but a pilot over the next 2 years. And we're in the process right now of trying to figure out with communities how to map out where those beds ought to be. And many people would say, oh yeah, you need more acute psych beds. Well, in our analysis, that's not the case. And in fact, our acute beds, in many cases, are jammed up with people that don't need acute care, but they got no other place to go. So we need more subacute beds. And we need more subacute beds that are high quality and that have adequate programming. And that's on us to make sure that we are having contracts with providers that have enough resource. It also means we need to bring back things like open residential treatment that is comfortable and that's inviting, where people actually might want to get care and they don't have to be held against their will. It also means investing in things like intensive outpatient, partial hospitalization. What happened to those things? We need them. We need lots of them. And the other thing we need is not these disconnected hospital or treatment beds across the county, and we're doing a lot to affect that. You know, the contracts in the department, which have been built over many years, don't really leverage our capacity and our authority as a mental health plan to create a system, a network. We're in the process of looking at all of those contracts, making sure that the contracts are uniform, that we're providing adequate funding, that we're ensuring that referrals into treatment beds, the care that's delivered in treatment beds, the discharge planning is all quality and that is performance-based. These are big challenges, guys. I mean, these things don't happen overnight. And getting 500 beds up in LA County, I don't know how fast we can do it, but we're working constantly to get it done. And then to create a network as opposed to independent hospitals that do their own thing. They don't even know that the patient that they discharged just went to the other hospital, then gets discharged and goes to the other hospital. They're not, right? How can we not know that? We have to know that. We're building systems and technology support so that we do know that. I told you about the MLK program, the restorative care program. I believe it was Gibson, who is in Sacramento, a legislator, just agreed to author the bill to get the program, a program that's integrated, includes those resources that I described. The institutions, well, again, when I showed up and I studied what was going on in the community, we got a lot of community outreach, we got a lot of homeless people, but we did not have a laser focus on the sickest people. And we didn't have dedicated teams that were trained up and resourced to help those folks. But we're the Department of Mental Health. And what we have done is reorganized the department in a way that all of our outreach teams do what I call specialty outreach. So they're specialized in attending to the needs of individuals who are most vulnerable, who have been chronically homeless, who are acutely psychotic, who have comorbid addictions, many of whom can't be put on a hold for grave disability or conserved, but who we have to get off the street. And the only way to do that is really through relentless engagement. This is actually where I do my work. I only get to do it about once a month. But I do it because I want to learn about it, and I'm trying to model for the rest of my department the kind of work that we all have to do, including the managers. So if there's any managers in the room, your director's out in the street, so please, come on guys, loosen up here. Please, the clinical work is actually the driver. That's where the inspiration comes from. And we're hoping actually that through that home program, throughout the county in every service area, we're going to really be able to more effectively, through a relentless engagement, connect with people who have been languishing on the sidewalks for way too long. the VPAN. This is one where we're hiring veterans as peers to do that work, because there are a lot of homeless veterans. There's also, as you all know, a serious epidemic of veteran suicide. And I would say that the other institution is deep isolation. The type of isolation where people decide, because the pain is so bad and they're so disconnected, that they want to take their own life. That institution is unacceptable. The court linkage programs, again, we have people who are justice involved, and we all know that once you get involved in the justice system, you're not only stuck in a cell, it's hard to get a job, it's hard to get housing, it's really hard to get anything. And we're trying with other departments and with the Office of Diversion and Reentry to figure out how to most effectively bring our resources together at the courts, give the judges a new sense of hope and flexibility and leniency to get people connected back into the community. This stuff here is all about, these last 4 bullets are all about LPS and voluntary care. We could talk the whole day about it, but I will, this is what I'll say. LPS was developed around a premise, and the premise was for individuals who were suffering from serious mental illness and could not be engaged in treatment. If they couldn't live safely in the community, we had to compel treatment. Living safely in community. What that ended up translating into is this thing called grave disability, which I'll just be frank, is kind of hard to interpret at times. It's also hard to implement. And it gets implemented, interpreted differently within different jurisdictions, within different departments. So we really, really need to think about what's a cleaner way to reform it. Because when someone is left in, let's say, the street, suffering from an affliction, and we don't have health and human service adequately available to take care of them, what happens? They go into the jail. And so what is the humane thing to do in that scenario? Or they die. The humane thing to do is to say, we're going to engage this person. We can't figure out a way to engage them voluntarily, but we're only going to engage them when we can facilitate their recovery. What I would like to do is to say we don't want to talk about conservators, we want to talk about recovery facilitators. We want to make sure that someone that's providing that surrogate decision making is really well trained, has whatever transportation and other things that they might need, which they don't have in many cases right now, understand their job, and have access to guaranteed housing, 24/7 clinical team, like the FSP that's been redesigned, and a treatment bed. And that the goal is not to just keep someone on a conservatorship indefinitely. The goal is to get them the services they need so that they can get off of the conservatorship and be genuinely in the community as an autonomous person. Infrastructure. I started off by telling you how important this is, not only to know where to begin, and our administrative team is not here, but we're rebuilding, we're trying to rebuild, everything. Our HR department, which, like other HR departments and bureaucracies, takes a long time to get people hired, to get them adequately trained, to get them onboarded properly. Our contracts division, which has been centralized and looks to provide customer service to our contractors to pay it forward, which means adequate money to do the work, but also means ongoing data sharing about how much has been spent, making sure everyone's got adequate training. This stuff is not easy, and it's like everything else, not happening as quickly as I would like it to, but that is our goal. We want to focus on workplace well-being. I had talked before about the importance of the input from communities. I call it the trench. I sometimes call it the sacred interface. That's that space where people who are getting services and they're delivering services live every day. Those are the real engineers of what we need to do going forward. trying to reorganize the department, trying to expand the department. Again, going back to this concept. Every time I'm walking around in Los Angeles County or in the hall, another department head will come up and they'll be like, hey man, I need your help. I need your help with my staff, I need your help with my constituents, I need your help with the people that we serve. Okay, well, I'm not gonna disagree. I mean, I'm a mental health guy. But if that's gonna be the case, we need more bandwidth. We need a bigger budget. I might get in trouble for saying this, and we're gonna talk about the budget and you'll see it on the slide. We get 1.8% of our budget from the county. We're asked to do a lot of things in this county. One thing we were successful doing, the public guardian, which is what I was talking about before, which really has a kind of a sacred duty of looking after individuals and surrogate decision making for individuals whose civil liberties are really kind of on pause, is a place where staff will enter the county, but it's an entry-level job, and it's one where people immediately kind of go somewhere else. Because those jobs and those classifications weren't the kind of jobs that people would want to keep and maybe build a career in the public guardian or be there for a period of time. So we reclassed the entire public guardian. This was tried many times before we succeeded. Unfortunately, a year after getting approval from the board and the CEO, it has. We have full approval, but it's not, the budget hasn't been approved. The budget will be approved this year, and then we'll be able to hire those people who work in the public guardian at a higher level. So they'll be making more money, they'll have a bigger step. I'm talking about this a lot because these are the kinds of things that we need to do in the department in order to deliver on what we're being asked to deliver. Yeah, Medi-Cal, I mentioned some things about it. I think there's some good stuff that's happening with the waivers, and I don't know how many of you are aware of the kind of technicalities of the 1115 and 1915B waivers, but I think we could do more. I think we need to look at different payment models that don't hold us accountable to only what's medically permissible. The only thing we can get reimbursed for is what is allowable. That's not okay. The driver of what we need to be doing ought to be the person that's standing in front of us. And I won't go into detail about something called in lieu of services. I told you about enhanced care management, but I would encourage those of you who are really interested in this kind of detail and in policy to read about what's happening at the state and at these waivers. And what I'm arguing for is what's called per member per month. Give us money for a member every month and let us do what we need to do to take care of them and hold me accountable to outcomes. Don't hold me accountable to some process or that I complied with something. Hold me accountable for how well that human being is doing. So this just shows a bit of about the restorative care program, which I had mentioned. Right now, if you look at the upper panel, we have lots and lots of investment in the institutions. And if we're able to grow MLK-like resources, we'll be able to shift it down the road so that we'll create stronger guardrails around the community and we will be less invested in the streets and in the jails. We don't want to be invested there. People nest where you invest. What Gavin Newsom liked to say is people follow the cheese. So this is a big deal. And if you look at our last slide, you'll look at a 10-year projection, which shows that we want to grow the community. We want to go green. We want to build up our crisis system, and we want to divest from our institutions.
I don't know what happened, but you're perfectly on time. So good job. We have exactly a half an hour for questions and answers. Forgive me for toying with this. I have to say that the first time I saw this presentation was really impressive. And the reason why is because I'm sure all of you can understand and have real experience with how complicated and fragmented and confusing it is to access services, and how reliable or unreliable it is to get connected into the system of care. And for us to see so cleanly and beautifully how it's organized, and for him to take what we understand as chaos and put it into something simple and easy to understand in terms of the colored domains here, I think deserves a very strong round of applause, because I understood it. I hope you understood a little bit more about how the department works. I hope you understand the intention of Dr. Sherin and the intention of what this means, and how that box will shift from, I think it's left to right, to get right-sized and centered again in community services of care and in patient-centered and patient-driven care. So once again, a big round of applause for the big thinking that went into this. And also for the questions and answers, I'd say that we will have time for plenty of them, but we might not get through all of them. In case you'd like to leave behind your thoughts, concerns, and comments, you can do so on the green form in your packet. It's a half sheet like this. And if you don't want to get up and say anything with the past microphones that are going around, you can leave this green sheet with any one of the department staff who will make themselves available, or to me directly. Okay, and with that, we will start the questions and answers. Let's take, okay, Destiny has somebody?
We have a question right here in the back.
Great.
Okay, I'm gonna make this short and sweet. Number one, why we rise? Who started it? I used to get my heart to flip over every time I saw a bus go by in LA with Why We Rise, and I still get chills thinking about it. I live in Pasadena. Pasadena finally got a few buses that say Why We Rise. Love it. Number two, the peer resource centers. Whose idea was that? And how fast did it get put together? The vans. How did we get the vans now? It may be a little while, but as they say in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, slow as molasses going up the hill in the wintertime. That's how some